Hi all, I'm glad, can you hear me? I'm glad to see you on my webinar about JDI. I think we can wait a little bit, 1 or 2 minutes to join us other attendees. If you have any problems, please type in chat that you have problems, but please do not spam about it is okay. Thanks. So during the presentation, you can ask any questions you have. Just write it in the chat, and after the session ended, I will review the questions and ask on some of them. And but if I don't answer on some questions, so you don't want to ask them online, you can address all questions directly on my contacts on my mail, for example, and I will answer after some days ago after on your questions. So I think we can start. I think everyone are here or join later. In any case, this webinar are recorded and you can see it later. So let's move on. Let me introduce you in the JDI test automation framework, which developed in St. Petersburg in Russia. Few words about myself. My name is Roman Iolev. I work as Chief QA Automation in Life Science Business Unit of EPAM in St. Petersburg in Russia. I have enough experience in testing, and my main responsibilities are rising test community competency center in St. Petersburg and improving test automation processes and tools in our location. And we have a lot of results and want to share them across locations. So here are my contacts. If you feel free to write to me. First of all, we start from agenda. Today, I will introduce you in JDI what it is and what benefits you can get with it. We can talk about modern new pattern UI objects and take a tour in the elements that has the JDI. So let's start. What is the JDI? As I already said, the JDI is the UI test automation framework. It is designed for testing any kind of UI, not only for web, for example, for mobile and desktop also, and based not only on Selenium, but can support any engine, for example, Appium or some other things. The main feature of the JDI is the rich collections of UI elements like buttons, forms, and we can talk about them later. The JDI originally appear as a result of our working experience in Life Science Business Unit. We already have around 2,000 people in St. Petersburg and hundreds of projects, and each UI the project started from the development of new framework, based on Selenium or other libraries. And then the project ends, this framework goes out of the company, and we start this process again with each new project. This is really sad, and we try to accumulate all our experience and best practices in one framework and use them in each new project and develop it continuously, increasing its functionality. So we decide to move in open source and publish the JDI UI test framework. As I say, this tool is designed for UI test automation, and this is not a tool, this is a framework. When you're using JDI, you will get all stuff, all layers that you need for your test automation out of the box. But in the same time, this is really flexible framework because we designed it on hundreds of as an experience of hundreds of projects, and it need to suit or fit needs really different clients and really different applications. So you can customize any part of JDI like reporting, logging, or test runner, and you can customize the JDI itself, like it's his elements and actions on them. Mainly JDI developed in Java, but we also support C# and Python. The JDI is a cross-platform solution, and we cover not only all browsers that supported by Selenium in depth, but also mobile and desktop, as I already say. And of course, out of the box, you will get detailed logging, and written on user language, it's obvious to understand the logs and the reporting. And you don't need to spend no effort on these things. You will get it. You just need to write your tests. As a result of all these things, we can develop our test automation cases and maintain them with less effort and reduce time on this. And we can do our work cheaper and with better quality. So we can do the much more things with better quality with the same team, or can do the same things with less amount of people in team. So let's move on the JDI essence, and let's start from the UI objects. This is the pattern which extends well-known pattern of Selenium is page objects, and I will describe how it extended. We can start from the typical web page. For example, this is EPAM.com before redesign. And here we can see the elements on controls on the page, like text fields, buttons, some labels. These elements can be combined in some sections, and as a result, you can get some kind of page object for each section. It has elements and it has actions on these elements. These sections can be combined in page. And with page in UI objects, we call the whole page of the application. This is not really a page under URL, but the page that see the user. So maybe for one URL you can have different view of pages, so this will be different UI object pages. And each page has can have a few sections, and each section, for example, can have list of elements. So as a result, you can see some kind of tree-like structure with pages, sections, and elements. And in JDI, we can add typification not only for elements like text fields, labels, but for page objects itself, like forms, pages, and sections. And this helps us to avoid describing some standard actions on these page objects. So form already know how to search, and page already know how to open the page or validate page URL or title. And the result of all this, the main UI object is the site, and the structure itself looks like the real tree. We have a root site class. We have a list of pages on this side, like branches and sections on it. And as the leaves, we have the UI elements. In the code, it looks like this. We have site class and list of pages. You can mention that all meta info related to site and page are in the UI object, not in the code, like in standard Selenium approach. Site can have not only pages, but even the elements, for example, some common elements like menu. And the page is another page object that can have some elements. Also, you can hide the info related to page from the site to the page class. So let's talk a little bit about elements and start from simple elements. What we call the simple elements. For example, this is the text fields or buttons, like in this standard form, and this is the code for them. This can be the label, some text, or links or images, and this is the code for them. The generally simple elements is the elements that can be described with one locator. One more example. Here you can see the text area and checkbox and code for them. Maybe you already mentioned that in JDI we have special annotations for locating elements like by D, CSS, XPath, by text, and other. If you want, you can use original find by used by Selenium, and JDI will work with it fine. But why you need to write more code? If you want, feel free. And a few more tricky examples of simple elements like data picker and file input. And here the code for them. Okay, the simple elements are not quite big a deal. This is with add to page objects like more clear understanding, and anyone, for example, newcomer, can easily understand what happens and from which elements has an entire page. And also this helps us to log the element sections, and we can write really good logs like I input some file in file input, or I send case in some text field. That's not possible for Selenium because it has no info about the type of element and only has supreme fab elements. Okay, let's talk about more complex case, complex elements. We have complex elements like some kind of check lists, menus, radio buttons, charts, or list of buttons, I don't know, multi-selectors you can see here. And we can combine the complex elements on two groups. First of all, the elements that provide list of elements, like list of web elements. This can be menus, tabs, radio buttons, checklist, and the complex elements that really combine 2 or 3 more simple web elements, or even like 4 or 5 elements if we talk about table, for example. Okay, let's start from first group, and let's look on the locators that we have for list of web elements. For example, menu. We can have a standard locator to list that provides list of tags from page. We can have the special locators for well-known tags like UL and select, and JDI automatically will get list of elements from these tags. Or we can use the templates for our locators and put the value of this locator later when we use this element. For example, we can write navigation select about, and this value about will be placed in the locator, so we can have this is our locator. This is really powerful mechanism. First of all, you can define just one locator and cover list of elements with it. But the second thing, you can find, if you're using the template locators, you will find your elements faster than you will. First of all, you will find your list of elements, of all elements, and then try to specify the element you need, like about. And if you know the Selenium, these problems are solved using not page object pattern, where you need to place the method instead of web element and write a method that something like driver find element and input the value. And with JDI, we can have standard page objects with elements and with actions. Also, we can use simple locators for complex elements like dropdowns and tables, but only if they have the standard structure like TRTD table or select option dropdowns, or you already define your complex element and define all its related locators by yourself. Okay, let's move forward and look on the list of elements or collections. Maybe you can, if you work with Selenium, that you can find list of web elements. In JDI, you also can find list of any type of element. For example, here we have the chat, and we can set up element like a list of text for this chat. Or we can have, for example, for this collection of buttons, list of buttons, or any other lists. This is, of course, a read-only list, and you can't add button through this interface on your web application. And if you want to get the element by some label, for example, I want to click on download now button or sign up now button, you can use elements instead of list. The elements is the list that has the ability to get elements by value. But we can face in our work with more complex situation when we have a list of more complex sections like search results in Google or some cards of users or products, for example, or any other search results. Maybe some kind of reviews functionality or something like this. Let's observe the search results in Google. What we can do here. In JDI, in Selenium, this is a tricky situation, and you need to write a lot of code here to operate with these kind of elements, and especially if you want to get these elements by some text, for example, EPUM JDI or Urban Dictionary JDI. In JDI, you can do this simply, just describe elements of some section, search result, and describe this section. Section is just one section here. It has, in example, label, link, and some description. And you can operate with these search results as you do with list of simple elements. You can get, for example, first or second element and click on its link or get description. Or you can even get this element from the label, like EPUM JDI, if you use elements instead of lists. Okay, this is complex elements, and I want to show you the, I think, most complex elements that we have in JDI is tables. Simple tables like this, just with rows and some values, can be described really simply, just with root locator. This can be done only if you have the TRTD structure for the table, and I think, but in any case, I think a lot of projects has such kind of tables. So in most cases, this is the way how you can describe the tables. And as a result, we can get a list of actions that you can do with these tables. You can verify is it empty. You can get all headers or footers of this table. You can get headers of columns or rows, get their sizes, or even you can search through this table. Okay, for example, find some row, the get rows with, for example, header name or something like this. Or more complex cases, you can find that some rows contains some text or equals to some text. Or maybe you can find, for example, a row that meet few requirements, for example, with column name equal to 1 and some type, for example, test. You can simply find all these rows or just first row and get this result validated or do with it some things. For example, click on the on some cell in this row, and also you can get the cells of each in the table by some conditions. First of all, by index 1, 2, 3, by name of these columns, or using some criteria like cells that match something or contains some things. Then you get the cell. You can do typical things with it. You can select it or click, or get text, or validate is it already selected. But sometimes we faced with more complex cells, like here. This cell contains image, text, and some checkbox, VIP or not this user. And we can get this cell as the section, as this section is described here, description, and operate with it. For example, we can get cell 1.4 and check or uncheck the VIP VIP checkbox, or we can get the text and validate from this cell and validate it. As we okay, let's move on not so standard table, because the developers can design their tables in any kind. And for table, we have a lot of settings that you can specify. This can be root for this table, rows locators, columns locators. You can specify a list of headers for this table or for rows. Also, you can specify some parameters like height or width, so sizes of this table. Or types for this table. You don't need to do all this stuff, but if you the more things you specify before, the faster JDI will operate with tables and don't need to extract this data from the web page. So the standard table usually looks like this. You need to describe rows, columns, and cells locators, and maybe headers for it. And you can operate in this way. You can operate with any kind of tables, with any layers or with any layout. One more tricky case or extension to the tables understanding, we also have the kind of entity tables. We call them like this. And when you work with your tables, you can operate with them as the list of some entities or data in table. For example, here we have the table of users, and each row can be specified as user data. We can set up some entity for this row. This is only data, so we have some number, some value in type, some username, and some description. And also you can specify the section for this row. We have here some text, drop down, link, and the more complex section description, like we already mentioned for the cells. As when you do this, you can simply operate with such tables, then describe it like here, put this entity and row class in the table entity table in your page object. And you can do some stuff with it. You can, for example, filter using these variables. You can select elements using these variables. And you can get all data, for example, get as entities or get as data, and validate these entities with your etalon or expected result. This is all for the beginning about JDI. I have more things related to JDI, and we'll talk about it later on the next session. We have a pre-session for the JDI, and here we will look not only on the UI framework, but on list of tools around the JDI, and also some tools related to services testing, not only for UI testing. In the next session, we will look more deep in sites and pages. I will describe you new test approach that we call entity-driven testing. And this is really a nice approach to write Mobius code for your tests and have a clear understanding of what happens in your tests. Then we cover the logging and reporting in the JDI and some other features related to it. And this is all about the JDI UI framework. And at the end, or I think this is not the end, but the last part of the second session, I will provide you a live demo of one-hour tool called Flash Pages that helps test automation engineers reduce their effort, test automation effort, even if you use JDI in 2 times. So this is really interesting and really simple to reduce your day-to-day work in half. I think you must enjoy it. About JDI 2.0, I will be really glad if you look on it. You can see more details in our GitHub. You can join our community. If you have some questions, you can address to me directly, or better write them in the GitHub issues or Stack Overflow for JDI. You can find all these things in the GitHub. In future, we plan, I hope in nearest future, we plan to have some YouTube channel with JDI examples. So also subscribe it. Then we have it all info related to our news you can find in our social communities. And here are my contacts, and if you have some questions, you can ask them in chat, and I try to answer on them. It's really strange. Some problems with my questions window is really short. Okay, look. can you share an example of project source code, maybe a Git repository? I already do this. So here you can see the repository, and here we can find all our products, and also we have repository under EPAM. You can find EPAM JDI. This is JDI 1.0 version. In the GitHub, we have a lot of examples, and we have about 400 tests here. You can see them as examples. Also, some examples you can find in the presentation that we have, video presentation that we have in our social groups. And we put some kind of templates under the JDI templates Git repository for starting for your test automation. So when you have a new project, you can just download the template, which already has setting up all stuff related to logging, reporting, and other things. And this is a working example with just simple tests like open Google site, and you can start your project like from these examples. Next question, is there any UML diagrams that direct JDI classes and interfaces? Unfortunately, no. We have such functionality. If you know how to do this, it will be good if you contribute to us, or maybe just share your ideas how to implement this. And we try to think how to do it. Is there a framework both on Java and C#? Yes, we have framework both in Java, C# and even for Python. We have more tested version on Java. It is based on hundreds of projects. For C# we have, I think, dozens of projects, not a little bit less, but enough experience, and you can see it also in this GitHub open GitHub community. About waiters, I have here the question about waiters in JDI. How about waiters in JDI? Is it possible to make specific waiting for element page loading and these things? Yes, I will talk about it in the next session, so you can see the details, more details about it. But the general answer is we put a lot of effort on weightings, and usual JDI engineer don't need to spend time to even think about waiters. JDI do all stuff in its core, and you just need to write tests like open new link, click on button, get text, and JDI will wait all stuff by itself. But as I already say, the JDI is really flexible solution, and you can specify special waits for each element for page loading, or you can specify even the strategy for waiting elements that you want for all elements. So yeah, you can do it by yourself if you want, but in most cases you don't need it. We want engineers to concentrate their effort on the writing business logic, and not to solve the technical stuff related to waiting pages or some Ajax loading things. Do you support the automation of React JavaScript for desktop applications based on built on Google Engine? No, we don't have this for desktop JavaScript. We have a desktop engine for Vimium and using SQL, but in general, JDI is just the framework that provides you a list of collections. And if you want, you can create your own implementation of JDI based on your engine, for example, Google engine, and just need to implement standard actions like click, select, input text, and JDI will take all other stuff related to the elements. So we already have your elements, you just need to implement their basic actions, and you can write your tests using all this stuff like tree like pages, like you typified elements, and so on. About Angular, I also will talk in the next session, so you can look, you must look on it. But yes, simple answer, we have some stuff related to Angular, and JDI simply cover Angular applications, and even we have special annotations for the Angular, and we resolve all problems related to Angular weights. So this is not a problem more for JDI. Strange question. Application can be opened in browser localhost. Yes, then this is not a problem for JDI. Can it be used to mobile testing? Yes, it can be used for mobile testing, but we haven't special actions like typing, sweeping, and so on. But if you have such experience, you can contribute to our JDI mobile repository, which is JDI based on RPM engine, and you can put these actions in our framework and use JDI mobile with all actions you want, taping, sweeping, or some other things, maybe multi-touch, if you know how to do it. In future, we have plans to increase stuff related to mobile testing, but we need more projects or more requests from you to do this stuff, because mainly our job concentrated more on the requests that we have. So if we have demand, we do this stuff. If we have more demand on Java Web, we do more Java Web applications. Can JDI helps with stale element problem? As I already said, JDI cover all things related to waiting, and it really good to work with stale elements. So you, with JDI, you, I think, never will remember about stale elements. When you write tests on JDI, you can get a stale element exception because JDI can resolve these things. This can be happened only if you really go out from the page and you haven't this element. But I think this will be not the stale element exception, but just exception that JDI can't find this element. If JDI find the stale element, it try to find this element from the beginning and will provide you the correct element. For mobile testing. I think this is all questions that I see. So I think that's all from my side. I hope you really enjoyed. If you still have some questions, you can write them to me. But I think before this, you just need to visit our next session related to JDI UI and see the stuff relating to rest of stuff related to JDI UI framework. And as I already say, in the next session, we will have a really impressive live demo related to Flash pages. I won't open your secret. So let's meet you on the next session. Thank you all for attending this webinar. And bye. The next session will be at the 14th June, And we will start 1 hour later, so it will be started at the 12 or midday on the Moscow time. So thank you all and bye.